Hello, my name is Claudia McKenna. I'm the Pompano Beach CRA attorney and special counsel to the city. And this is Mark Berman, the Pompano Beach city attorney. And we're here today to talk to you about ballot questions that are going to be on the November 5th general election ballot. In May, the Pompano Beach City Commission adopted an ordinance placing these three questions on the ballot for your consideration. And so we're going to talk about what those questions are and why they are in front of you. Question 1 is intended to remove eminent domain. Question 2 is intended to fix the contract process. And question 3 is intended to fix the lease process. So I'm going to tell you about question number 1. Removing eminent domain from the charter as a requirement for property transfers to governmental entities. And here's the actual question. Shall the power of eminent domain requirement be removed from section 253H of the Pompano Beach City Charter? And you'll be asked yes or no. So what is eminent domain? Well, you can see on the slide a coffee shop and a house. The government used to be able to use eminent domain to take someone's house or business for private use. The state of Florida changed the law to stop that activity, but we still have it in our charter for transfer of city property to other government entities. So we want to take it out. And now Mr. Berman is going to tell you about question number 2.
Thank you, Claudia. Question number 2, a proposed amendment, is entitled Approving Contracts by Resolution and for terms longer than 5 years with the City Commission. The actual question reads, shall the contract provisions of the Pompano Beach City Charter, Section 251C, be amended to allow contracts to be approved by resolution consistent with state law? And shall the term of such contracts be permitted to exceed 5 years if approved by the City Commission? So there are 2 things we want to change about the contract approval process that are currently in the charter that we believe should be changed, and that's why we're bringing it to you for your consideration. First of all, why change the approval process? Contracts handle city business, goods, services, equipment, things of that nature. Normally, those are handled by a resolution. A resolution is an official action of the City Commission that deals with a basic disposition of an item of administration, such as contract approval. The current approval process for certain matters requires approval by ordinance. State law says an ordinance is an expression of or an official legislative action of a governing body which is enforceable as a local law. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is approving contracts. Now, currently the charter says if a contract is greater than 1 year, it has to be approved by ordinance. It requires 2 readings, requires more commission time, more staff time, and more expense for taxpayers. Residents are paying more for us to approve contracts in this manner. We're trying to stop that process because these ordinances need to be advertised. And if you don't need to do it under state law, we are suggesting we do not do it under the city's regulation. Now, it would still be approved by resolution in writing. It still would be heard at a public meeting by the City Commission and the public and invite public comment for the Commission to consider before its decision for approval or non-approval if the Commission decides not to do it. In addition to changing how we pass contracts by resolution instead of ordinance, there's a current provision that says we cannot exceed 5 years on a contract. Contracts are all different. Some contracts will require a year, some 5 years, some may require more. And then when they require more, we may be able to get significant advantages for the city and for our taxpayers. For example, for lease of property, for fire department equipment, we lease a warehouse. If we could go beyond 5 years on that lease, we would likely be able to get better terms and better pricing that'll save taxpayers money over a period of time. Same thing with services and other things that the city contracts for. So again, it doesn't make sense for us to have an artificial limit of 5 years. Each contract should be considered on its own merits based upon the needs of the city and its residents. Again, allowing and removing the 5-year limitation would be in a contract, these contracts in writing at public meetings with public input to be heard by the city commission. And now Claudia is going to discuss proposed amendment number 3 with you.
Thanks, Mark. So question number 3 is approving leases by resolution and for terms longer than 50 years with city commission approval. And again, I'm going to read the question so you know what you're being asked. Shall the lease provisions of the Pompano Beach City Charter, Section 250A and B, be amended to approve leases of city-owned property by resolution consistent with state law with 2 public hearings for approval, and shall the term of such leases be allowed to exceed 50 years if approved by the City Commission? And again, you'll be asked yes or no. So why would we change lease limits and the approval process? Well, as Mark explained with contracts, it's the same with leases. Leases are not laws, and you use ordinances to make laws. You use resolutions to handle city business. And as you can imagine, with leases, it's not a one-size-fits-all, so that 50-term limit is really artificial. We may have city-owned property that we want to lease for 10 years or for 20 years, but we may also have a large assembly of city property that we need to lease for longer than 50 years so that we can get the best terms for our taxpayers. And a good lease process requires flexibility. We don't want an artificial limit. And of course, having those limitations may limit the ability to get the best partners for better projects. And importantly, it's the same problem with contracts where it costs time, it costs money, and it's inefficient. So, what's important, just as with contracts, the safeguards are the same with the exception that the lease safeguard is 2 public meetings instead of 1. So a lease for city-owned property is going to come to you in writing, 2 public meetings, public comment is always allowed, and the resolution approving the lease has to be approved by the City Commission. So again, Election Day is November 5th, 2024. We hope you will get the facts, and if you have any other questions, please go to pompanobeachfl.gov. Thank you.
Thank you.